views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to LoveLight-Sound Radio, aligning and consciously creating your life with host Suzanna Jameson on Transformation Talk Radio. Follow Suzanna as she channels dynamic frequency encodings of sound and light that initiate clearing, activation, balancing, and alignment with a new vibration of well-being. Allow your higher vibrational self to unfold on LoveLight-Sound Radio. Transformation happens here now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the show. It's great to have all of you tuning us in and turning us on. I'm Dr. Pat, and what a great show we have for you today. LoveLight-Sound Radio with Suzanna Jameson joining me here today. You know, what happens when we align? What happens when we balance? What happens when we consciously create the lives that we want? Today, I'm so thrilled to actually introduce all of you to what Love, Light, Sound healing frequencies are, thanks to Susanna's great body of work, and how they work with each and every one of us every day. What can we do with them? How can our lives change? Why is it so important to even have this conversation? Well, many years ago, you heard conversations about the law of attraction, the secret, all of those things. But what they didn't tell you was that you have to really be aware and mindful of energy, vibration, and frequency in a way that we had never known before. Today, thanks to Susanna's fabulous work, you know, we now know that she can help people heal. She can do this because she's done it. And for those of us now that totally get vibrations and totally get what this is about, we're learning how to show up more fully in life, but more importantly, how to love ourselves, how to know what that looks like and feels like, and then how to move beyond. You know, for me, I am so thrilled to have this amazing, healer, this person that has said yes, whether it's holistic, intuitive notions, ideas, talents, and gifts, all of the above, certified life health coach, which we need so much of today. We now know that there is a new level of empowerment, a new narrative on empowerment, and we are an active ingredient. Susanna, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much. Well, that is a warm welcome. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it, Pat. Thanks. Yeah.
You know, each of us has a story. Mm-hmm. And I've started to share my story now about my life, how I'm here, and what really keeps me motivated and moving forward every day. And when I share it, it has to do with a number of different personal traumas, experiences, and things like that. How has your journey, what about your journey, your story, how has that helped shaped who you are today?
Well, it's really my life story, starting from scratch. What I feel attracted to working with, or what I feel called to work with, is basically anyone who has trauma in an extent of where it shows up like I'm a burden, I feel like a burden, or not lovable, not acceptable, I'm not good enough, worthy, not worthy, so how that manifested in my life is that from, 3 weeks old on, I had that sense of being a burden. And then later on, it became an issue of being abandoned, actually, within my family. And then abusive childhood, emotional and physical abuse. Alcoholic parents, ran away from home when I was 18 and made it by myself on $50 savings, basically, and more abusive relationships. My first marriage was with an alcoholic again, so repeating the pattern. And that's what I'm seeing with my clients also, where we get stuck in traumatic patterns because we haven't found a way to extricate ourselves from that. And, for me then after that marriage, it was about finding my own healing path and finding how coming to an understanding of why that actually was happening to me and finding my own way out of that. And that took me 20 plus years, and I've tried all kinds of things. I mean, I'm a naturopathic doctor. I did extensive homeopathy studies, clinic management, internship, you name it. I have loads of certifications. I don't want to bore anyone to death with, energy healing work. There isn't much I haven't done. Nutrition, diet, all of it, cleanses, meditation practices extensively. And what I've found is basically over the years, I was able to kind of, select out of my own experience what I found was the most conducive ways to approach trauma. And I love that you're bringing up positive affirmation. There's so much about that. And there's a few misperceptions around that, why it's often not working for people. And, we can address that in a moment.
Yeah.
Just want to quickly finish my story here. So then, I was already pretty successful in my work in terms of, what I had kind of put together. And then there was more recent, like 2 years ago, there was a very traumatic experience in my life. And I'm actually talking about it in my book, The Healing Power in Finding Your Innocence, that basically gives the story about that. And, basically that I kind of was at that point before I thought I had it all together, got it all figured out. And also was in a place or space of unconditional love that I thought wow, can't get any better. What I failed to notice was that unconditional love was for others. It wasn't for myself. And that was what that particular traumatic experience basically brought home to me, that I had to make myself my first priority in order to be really, unconditional for others too. I noticed that actually there was a price tag attached to that love I had for the other person, and making someone else more important than myself in that moment cost us both. Tremendously.
It's huge right now because, I'm first of all, I'm so glad you're joining us here today for the show. Yeah. The other thing I'm really excited about and is so needed is this idea of not even knowing when we are being there for other people. We can't see it, can we, Suzanna? We can't see it.
It's in the moment, in my experience, it's the whole subject around self-sacrificing and overgiving. There are a lot of, especially people in the helping professions, healers, coaches, people who come naturally with a big, big heart, kind-hearted people who do obviously naturally have the inclination to wanting to give, because that's just how we are. That's who we are and how we're made. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it doesn't shift into this, overgiving, where we're making, we're putting ourselves last, everyone else is coming first, and it's, self-care, what's that? How do you spell this? And right? It's can't find it in the dictionary, but it's that's exactly what it is. And that notion, that fine line, where we trip over to overgiving and self-sacrificing, that is the part that is actually self-sabotaging, where we're not coming from love, but basically we're coming from fear of not being loved, not being good enough, wanting to be loved back. It's look, I'm doing all of this for you. How about it? Am I good enough now? Do you see me? Do I need to do more? Right. So it has this kind of anxious notion running underneath, but we're not aware of that. And we're not aware of this because we're kind of, that's something that has been ingrained in childhood, and we've taken away this pattern, modus operandum, let's say, and just function on that, throughout our lives, without, and we're not taught anywhere, how to get in touch with ourselves, how to connect with ourselves, how to actually check in with what our truth is really. Right?
Yeah. And, part of this too is we're going to go through this today is first of all, becoming aware of how our trauma, how our shock experiences, how all of that affects us. Now, we're going to talk also about, how you're helping people come back to that alignment, that natural place of alignment. For those of you out there, you're listening to the show, whether you're listening to it on a network or Facebook Live, for those of you folks on Facebook Live, just go ahead and type us a comment, type your question in, and what we'll do is we'll get those questions on air. If any of you would like to call into the show, in the U.S., it's 1-800-930-2819. And this is about looking about the gifts that we get, right, Suzanna? When all is said and done and we go through these experiences and we come out the other end, then we're called to do something that we didn't even know we're capable of. Let's take a short break. When we come back, more with Suzanna Jameson. And we're going to tell you how you can find out more about her, how you can work with her, and how about the gift? How about the personal healing frequency gifts that she has? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tuning us in and turning us on. I'm so thrilled to be introducing all of you to LoveLight-Sound Radio with Suzanna Jameson. And here's the deal. When you go through trauma in life, and believe me, we're going to talk about what that even looks like, because we're so used to in our society, Suzanna, sucking it up and moving on. And that is something that many of us have grown up with, families that say, you know what, you just got to pick yourself up and move on. And we're going to talk about those childhood traumas in a moment. But before we do, I would love for people to know how they can find out more about you, how they can schedule an appointment with you, because once we're done with this show, you're going to be more aware of where you need help in your life, and Suzanna can help. How can people learn about this and find out more about you and the many ways you work with people?
Well, for once, probably a good first step would be to go to my website, SuzannaJameson.com. And if you're interested in finding out if I can help you with your particular situation, there is in the menu bar appointments, and you can just find a space and on my schedule that works for you. And, there's a fall short form attached to that, and just fill it out quickly. It's no big deal. And you can choose basically the times that are available. My calendar tends to book up pretty fast. So I would recommend that you either save the link or check back in maybe in a couple days if there's nothing available right now. So that doesn't mean anything. It just tends to book up fast. So just be aware of it. Just keep trying. That is basically what I want to say. And I do have for you to get an introductory sense, there is a free gift download when you get to my website, and that already has some information about LoveLight-Sound healing, the frequency work, how they work. There is also a vocal sample, if you're interested in that, just to explore for yourself. So that is available there.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. During the break, what I was saying to you was kind of interesting. I was saying, we go through childhood, and sometimes we seem to have experiences, but then we get older and we're taught to suck it up and move on and don't pay attention to it. But then we find ourselves trying to live amazing lives and we just can't. Mm-hmm. And here you are, you had this trauma in your life and you turn that into a gift. We are capable of that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And I mean, obviously that was life's intention for me. It's I can't take credit for that really, let's say, it's just how life showed up for me or through me. And it was pretty humbling, actually, especially that last major thing. As I said, like, I thought I had it all figured out, everything together. And then having, coming back to a space where I'm completely, out of sync and actually at a place where I don't want to live anymore, which is, pretty dire to be in. And to be able to extricate myself out of that, that was, partially due to the foundation I already had. But at the same time, life gifted me with these frequencies that came through within the healing process. And that's why I'm just passionate about sharing them, because they just accelerate the healing process so much, more in my experience, and also what I've been seeing with my clients. So, and I love that you're bringing this up, Pat, with with how trauma shows up in our lives. In my experience, it's so insidious. Right. Because it's like it's like sneaking up on us. I mean, there's so many of my clients, you look at them from the outside, you think like, great life. I mean, what's wrong? It's like, why do they lack self-confidence? Or, why don't they, step into their purpose? They have it all and, things. And then, looking closer, then there is this kind of, if I really look close, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm good enough. I always heard, like, my parents always used to tell me, I'm no good. I'm never going to amount at anything. But let's say, even if it's that, not that conscious, let's say, just the fact that we are being what I would call domesticated or, socialized as children, taught or trained certain behaviors, create a disconnect. It doesn't even have to be severe abuse. It doesn't have to be rape as a child. It doesn't have to be, being beaten senseless or whatever. I mean, obviously that's even more severe, but even, small things like, as you mentioned, as a child being told, don't make such a fuss, get over it. I don't have time for this right now. It's like, grocery store, tantrum is just not acceptable, and what that does, it creates this disconnect. Like, I have this experience as a child, and I'm coming from pure love essence. So this is my truth, my experience. And then the authority people around me, and especially my caregivers, meaning my parents, obviously I trust unconditionally in that moment, right? They are telling me, no, that's not how it is. That's not how you're supposed to show up. That's not how it's right. Right. And out of that, we're taking, like, if this is repeated, we're taking away, well, guess something is wrong with me, so something must be wrong with me, Yeah. And so, and obviously no one is a bad person. Even our parents, they just didn't know better. I mean, they've probably been raised a similar way or had even worse experiences. I mean, my parents are World War II children, so that can clue you in to a certain extent, in terms of trauma, what is running there. So, I do have an understanding for that. But even if you have that understanding, in my experience, until you really find self-love, true forgiveness is not possible. There's all this thing out there, like, I need to forgive, and then the Bible says, and, whoever else tells you, you got to forgive. And then there's all these exercises that you're supposed to be doing to forgive yourself and others. Fact is, for true forgiveness arises naturally in the healing process. As I'm healing myself and I'm coming in touch, connecting with self-love, forgiveness is a natural byproduct. It's nothing I have to do about it,
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this, Suzanna, because, what you're really talking about is something I think a lot of us that have had childhood trauma have had to learn, right? There could be 100 people telling you, forgive those people that beat you. Forgive this person that did this. Forgive that. Forgive this one. But I'll tell you, I mean, when you watch people that have moved into the healing zone, exactly what you're talking about, they can talk about their past now as it was their past, not about how their past is literally controlling their present and their future. They talk about it like you and I are talking about it, to help people understand that despite the trauma we went through, we learned a level of healing that starts right within us, inside of us. And yet when I hear you talk about it, it's like, of course, if we're wounded on the inside, and that's where we're wounded, right? Then it makes perfect sense that we got to heal that inside before we can take care of anything out there, right?
Right. It's like, as long as this kind of deficiency, I would call it, is running, because all of these beliefs are in a certain, I'm deficient of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and so on.
Right.
So, we have this tendency of asking that from the outside, right, in our relationships, so we'll do anything to be loved, to be accepted, to be acknowledged, to be appreciated, be it even in our work environments, it's like constantly, well, they didn't appreciate me, they didn't appreciate what I did and things, Now, energetically, what that does, like where we're coming from is like, when we're having this energy of like, look, am I good enough? That this has this kind of doormat character. I would, if you know what I mean. It's like coming from. I do know
what you mean. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe you're talking about this. You see me. Look, let's get real about this, Suzanna. Right? You and I have spent a lot of time talking here. They see us show up,
right,
and they see us at our best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, if you'd have seen me an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, when I'm looking at trying to look at something that I want to adjust, there's that mode of me that experiences the little kid that's scared. Remember that kid? I know you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, right? You know.
Yeah.
There's the little kid. Then there's the wounded adolescent, right? Then, in my case, the homeless teenager, right? Now, yeah, so I'm only 17 now, and I'm not going to take up the whole hour. That's just the first 17 years of my life. And all of that comes to the forefront between 9 and 10 o'clock this morning. And I've got to learn some tools. I've got to know how to heal, right? You and I are aware of this because we have been this.
Yeah.
We've been this, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you can accelerate the learning and the healing for people. And I think that's what today's show is about.
Okay.
It's not that we can't heal. What it is looking at the work that you're doing to help people get so directly at the core of it that they're not going to have to look back, right?
Right. Yeah. And and basically my work is designed so that there is energetic support for your life force energy so that it can balance out naturally. And there's, aspects that you don't have to do anything. That's the good news. However, and here's where the law of attraction comes back in, and also with the positive affirmations, what they left out in the secret is the part that you need to be taking intelligent action. Right? It's like, just sitting on the top of a mountain doing for the rest of your life and doing like the positive thinking, that's not going to change your life. Right. And, that's also what I'm touching on in my workshop. There are a lot of modalities obviously out there that are extremely helpful. Meditation and, yoga practices, breathing exercises, mindfulness. It's all wonderful, therapy to a certain extent, and what it does, if you notice, is like, meditation, for example, it's like as long as you're meditating, you can quiet your mind. The more and more you practice, the more and more you train. Like it feels like you're calmer, more serene. But as soon as you're out of that practice and someone triggers you, you're up, under the ceiling. It's like this, and that is the thing. So what it is for me about is like getting to the root to an extent and coming to a space of self-love that there is actually no trigger. And what I mean is, no matter what anyone else does, says, thinks, or feels about you, even if it's your loved ones.
Right.
It's like, okay, that's their opinion. They're allowed to be who they are. It's got nothing to do with me coming to this, to the realization and true experience of this is not personal. It's not even about me. It's their suffering. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But childhood trauma what it creates that false impression that whatever someone else does to us means something about us.
Yeah.
And that is what is haunting us on a daily basis, in the present.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to talk about this when we come back. But the other thing too, that I know you talk about, and you touched upon it earlier in the show, is that we have a legacy. We have parents. They had parents. They had parents. They had parents. And if you go back in time and you look at the generations that have come before, they had a set of tools that is not even close to the set of tools we're talking about today. And people don't like it when we say those folks did the best they could.
Yeah, but that's the truth.
But it is the truth. And Pat, someone said to me, how can you say that about a father that sexually abused his daughter? Well, chances are his father did that, or the father's father. The question really is this for you and the work you do. What are we going to do to break the cycle?
Right, exactly.
What are we going to do to break the cycle? When we come back, Suzanna is going to take us on a journey of how to break that cycle, how we can step forward, not victims in the world, but victimless. How can we rise up and be those people out there that we hear, see, and we think we want to be like, and don't think we can accomplish it? Well, Suzanna's got a different message. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Pat. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to the Dr. Pat Show or Transformation Talk Radio. And pretty soon, we're going to be creating something really, really cool for all of you out there, and going to ask for your help and involvement in our Positive Mojo movement. So you're going to hear a lot about that. But my guest today, Suzanna Jameson, has created an amazing platform. So when we're talking about how do we heal, what is sound light? What is that? What does that mean? How does her work, her gifts and talents help you get right in there vibrationally, frequency, and move some things away? Suzanna, one more time, please tell folks how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, well, general info about me and my work you can find on my website, SuzannaJameson.com. And there is an appointment section. If this already resonates with you and you want to find out if I can help you specifically in your situation, just book an appointment there on my calendar. And if it's booked, just keep trying because it books up pretty fast. So that as an aside. And if you do want an idea of what that love, light, and sound healing work is about, there is a free gift on my website. You can download a card deck that I specifically created for people to get an idea. And there is also a couple of vocal samples. And there is an information sheet on what you need to do, basically nothing but take them in, but, it gives you an idea on how that works. So all of that is available for you to check out when you have a moment. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And, I've gotten to work with you here over the past several weeks. And, one of the things I'm learning about myself for sure is how is it that this idea of sound and light, how is it affecting us in our day? And I had a very interesting thing happen. I want to share with you and ask you about the trauma of the past, how it affects the present. So my meditation, believe it or not, is I hit a little white ball on a green table over a little net at about 80 miles an hour. And that little ball, when you play that game, it has a sound. Mm-hmm. There's a sound. People know the sound of a ping pong ball, right? Mm-hmm. We've had jokes about it over history and over time. But the one thing we don't talk about is why is it the fastest growing sport for people over 50 years old, right? there is this sound of the ball that is very hypnotic and very meditative. And I caught myself doing something after talking to you the other day. I started to bounce this little ball on the table. And I was made aware of, by doing that, how much I love playing. And by simply bouncing the ball, my mood changed. And I wanted to talk to you about that. Now, clearly, that's not the body of work you do. But there is an emotional connection to what brings us joy in life and what doesn't. And this segment is to talk about how you help people move past those things that are deep inside us, the beliefs, the patterns. How do we get past that? So when we move into that place of joy, we know how to tap into it over and over again.
Right. So, so we've looked at the past briefly, like how trauma is created. And so now the thing is, when it's not resolved, subconsciously we're taking it into adulthood. And that is what I mean by the subconscious patterns or beliefs that are running, so we're basically showing up on autopilot, what I would call it. It's, we're having these moments when we're in a work situation or whatever, we'll blow up at people and we don't even know where it's coming from. It's like how often have we had this impression of, my goodness, why did I say that? Why did I act like this right now? It's like, this is not me. Right. And that shows the degree of disconnect that is present, where we're not in touch with ourselves and in any moment, and it is about basically in my work, coming back to the here now. It's always here now, and fully be alive in that moment, not tune out and doing, but coming into being, like experiencing the moment right now. And that can show up in all kinds of ways. The thing is, like, not every moment is happy-go-lucky. There might be moments when you had this morning, like the issue between 9 and 10 with whatever, Facebook thing didn't work. And, you can find yourself being irritated, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can allow yourself that expression too, that's where it becomes unconditional. I don't have to be that person, and that is what I'm seeing also in the spirituality trend. It's like, oh, I'm so spiritual, so then it's all here, we're all in this spiritual world, but there's no connection to the foundation, so there's a discrepancy also, and we might probably touch on that in another show, that kind of goes beyond this show right now. Yeah. But it's a huge issue I'm seeing and also from my own experience, that I had to learn to integrate. So that was a side note off track. So let's back on track is, how do we do this? Like, the way, in my experience, we can shift our present into healing, and through that actually affect our future, right? Because what we're bringing now, if we keep stuck in the same things that are blocking us, that are blocking our true expression, that are blocking us from really living our purpose and stepping into our power, that's how it affects our future. Right? We might have these wonderful ideas and concepts and dreams, but we don't even dare claiming them. We're not, we don't even dare step into that, because it's like, I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this? Right? That's not going to happen. I would love to, but, my father always said, and, obviously they know, right? But even if they're dead, we still have that program running. And it's basically for us, or basically the way I help people, is to come to the understanding that it always starts with you first. So what I call it in my workshop, there's 5 shifts you need to make. So number 1 is you need to align with your truth. You first of all need to be in touch with what your truth actually is. There is only one like you. You're the one, who can know what your truth is. No one can tell you that. And then, number 2 is making you your top priority. And a lot of people have an issue with that. It's like, oh my gosh, that's selfish. Yeah. Right. But it's the most healthy selfish that is possible, because really, if you're running on empty, and then we're back into the overgiving, self-sacrificing, right? If you're running on empty, there's nothing really you have to give. How are you going to show up? Plus, it creates resentment, right? Because the overgiving is coming from, hey, I want something back. Subconsciously, obviously, church says we're not supposed to, but that's not true. If we really check in, we know we want something back. We want to be appreciated. We want to be acknowledged at least, if not loved, but at least a bit of appreciation. So if that doesn't happen in the long run, there is resentment. There's no way around it, So the thing is, though, Pat, and you know that also, you're very in tune with energy and how they work. It's like energy doesn't go anywhere, right? If there's an energy of resentment or hatred, where is it stored? It's in this system here, the one who's experiencing it, right? It's not the other person. They can have coffee at Starbucks and be all blissed out for all you know, right? But you have the hatred running about them and the resentment. And so it's affecting your system in that moment energetically, right? So if you try to gloss over it and just pretend it's not there, it's like, I'm the spiritual person, or, I should be over it, or, I've forgiven them. I'm done. I'm good. Right. So it's like, I don't care, I'm good. And just notice where that is not true, where you're kind of basically lying to yourself just to be able to make it through the next day. But the resentment is still there and it's eating at you. And the thing is that, the body energetically manifests the latest, right? It's the most dense energetically. So it takes a moment for things to manifest in the body. So when we're looking at chronic disease, and that's been coming up with my clients too, where they have all these chronic issues and whatnot. And, school medicine doesn't really make a connection to that, but it's basically the manifestation of trauma eventually, if it's not resolved. You have all these weird autoimmune diseases no one can diagnose. Right. All of a sudden you come up with all kinds of things where been to all the doctors, they have no idea where it's coming from, and then you look at their timeline, it's like, okay, what happened there? Okay, that trauma. Okay, what happened there? Yeah, well, that shock. Okay, yeah, duh, but no one looks like this. People don't take the whole person and the whole context of their life and how they specifically react to circumstances in their life into account, and that's basically what I do. For me, it's about holistic approach. It's like, who are you as a person, as that unique individual expression of life force energy that's out there. There is only one like you, and I do need to meet that in my healing approach, else it's not going to happen, and then basically cater something to your needs, where you are met in your approach to healing, and also where you're at on your path, so that can actually happen for you, and give you the tools and the support to make it happen for you. But you have to be on board, so that's the part of the intelligent action. You have to be 1,000% in, Yeah.
I love what we're talking about, because one of the things, I did a show not too long ago, Suzanna, and here's the reference to what you just said about chronic disease. So in our country right now, 45% of our population, 133 million Americans, just so you know the number, everybody, have at least one chronic disease. That's 133 million people have at least one. 7 out of every 10 deaths in the United States are from this. And it's mind-boggling to me how we can have these numbers and yet we can't connect the dots to what you're saying about this inner emotional, energetic, vibrational healing. Because unless we do heal that, it's not as if the body is ignorant to what's going on. The body reacts. The body says, oh, you're really not doing too good. Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's not do too good.
Well, I love that you're pointing that out, Pat. That's exactly it. The way in like school medicine or regular medicine looks at disease is that it's like, here's a symptom, right? And we have that isolated symptom. Like, let's say someone has migraines or something, or stomach ulcer. So it's like, oh, we need to get rid of that. What we're overlooking in that is like your life force energy is constantly working at balance. constantly working at balance. So, someone with a stomach ulcer, usually that's an expression of high level stress. So are migraines, or menstrual disorders or whatever, chronic pains. So, basically here's your life force energy saying, ooh, something's off. I'm out of balance and have been for a while. That's why I'm having this symptom. I'm trying to make you aware that something is off. Then it's like, oh, no time. I'm busy being a CEO, whatever, so where's the pill cabinet, right? So
right.
pop. And so, but the thing is like whatever you're having is not being cured. The symptom is just alleviated, right? So you have migraines, chronic. So you pop the pills, and then after a day or two, they go away, but they're still coming back, right? The way I work is no more migraines, meaning like no more migraines, not ever, not now. And then they come back and then you get something else, right? So it's about cure. It's not about suppressing symptoms. And I love that you pointed out the numbers too. And I want to add one on here, Pat, anything, especially trauma, it's about basically trauma is so painful that we do have a tendency to not wanting to look at it, obviously, and also not wanting to look at the consequences. So why do you think, we have overcompensation with food, with alcohol, with drugs, right? With medication, self-medication, sex, TV, you name it, right? And obviously it's all a matter of degree. Having a social drink here or there is one thing, but what I'm talking about, when you need to have it every day, then it's not kind of a pleasure thing. It's numbing yourself out. And that's exactly what's happening. And just looking at the amount of people who are overweight these days, and yes, there is a diet issue in that too, but a lot of that is also overcompensation because they just can't stand the pain. And it's kind of suppressed with overeating, or with drinking or with drugs, just don't want to look at it.
I have to tell you, the research on this, when we were looking at this, Suzanna, in support of the body of work that you do, and it started in the 90s when I was in school, and it started in the 90s in the body of empirical research now that is being shared with the public on the relationship between emotions, immunity, disease, psychological adjustment, whatever you want to call it, all of the above is now showing up in empirical studies. And what they're saying is, listen, if you've had a trauma, you are more likely to go down the path of some other chronic illness. So the question really is now, and I'd love to hear what you've learned about this. What can we do to help people relieve the possibility of trauma affecting somebody's future?
Yeah. So, I'm touching on that as I said in my book, The Healing Power in Finding Your Innocence. I'm actually giving some exercises also, like for every level that you can do by yourself. And, the thing with this is one of the shifts I feel you need in order to really transform your life lastingly. It's like, in my experience, there is no way you're doing it alone. You need someone qualified, you need an expert mentor, and whoever that is, the invitation is really find someone who resonates with you. Don't just go with whatever, you do want to, it's profound work, and you do want to find someone who you can really trust. That's paramount. And, so that is one aspect. And, there's so many self-help books out there, so much information. If it's just about information, you can knock yourself out on Google. That's not what this is about. How many people have bought exercises and things, and then they hang out on the shelf and it's not, no one practices it. It's like, yes, it's good to have an understanding, yes, it's okay to have read that book about what happened in childhood and how it affected me, but it's all only on the intellectual level, right? There is in that, it's great to get some understanding, but it doesn't integrate, it doesn't help you integrate and shift your trauma, right? So basically, what can be done is, anything that gets you in touch with yourself, with your truth in any moment, and anything that brings you into self-love, that's the baseline, basically for you to come to self-love, because out of that, when you can either come from love or you can come from fear. Both can't coexist at the same time. So when you're coming from love, there is no fear, and that's also how you come from your own power, right? Fearlessly and unapologetically standing in your truth, right? Yeah. So this is where it starts. And that's where you need to come home to. And that's how I call my program, incidentally, coming home to yourself, which is about coming home to this, which is your true essence, which is love essence. That's what it is about. Yeah.
Well, I know that we're going to do many more shows and talk more about, especially in detail, about some of the things that you've talked about today and the way you help people, because it is so important. I don't think we wake up every day, Suzanna, and we say to ourselves, oh, I wish today wasn't going to happen. I don't think we do that, but there is an energy that unless we know how to move beyond it and get help, we take it with us. We carry our energy with us. Hence, that's why you can't just do an affirmation and have it work if you're carrying the energy of disbelief with you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. Especially if that is the one undercurrent, if it's a subconscious one, it's running you the whole time and you're kind of trying to sugarcoat on top. That's not going to happen, right? It's like if you weed a garden and you just cut the top off, it's going to grow back. So you have to get to the root, right? That's basically what it is about. Yeah. And I love that you're bringing that up. That's totally, true in my experience. Yes.
Yeah, it is mine too. I mean, now I have tools, but you said something important. I've not been able to do the work I've done in life alone. I've not been able to do that. And that's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing in the world. Please tell folks again, how can they work with you? And then one last question. What is your personal message for today?
Yeah, so how you can work with me today is, best check out my website at SuzannaJameson.com. There's a possibility to download free gifts for you to familiarize yourself with my work or aspects of my work. And you can learn about my background. And you can also book an appointment with me if you feel called to do so, to see if we could work together, if you want to check that out. And my message for today, be kind with yourself. Just be kind with yourself, be in touch with that. In my experience, so often we're not, just remembering. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Suzanna Jameson, everyone. And I'm Dr. Pat. And as I said before, you're going to be hearing a lot more from Suzanna. And I hope that you've heard something today, which is going to enable you to believe in yourself and believe in your future. Thank you all. Thank you, Suzanna. Thanks for
so much.
Show.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
If you've missed any part of this, please go to Transformation Talk Radio, and both the audio and the video will be up there again. Stay tuned for another hour coming up on Transformation Talk Radio. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to LoveLight-Sound Radio with Suzanna Jameson on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us next month as Suzanna explores how to align, balance, and consciously create your life. For more information on Suzanna Jameson and her work, or to listen to past shows, visit her website at SuzannaJameson.com.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.